A Podcast Pedagogy, exploring the use of creative audio content in the metropolitan upper primary classroom. I want you to picture a typical classroom setting. What do you imagine? When asked this, people will commonly describe a traditional teacher-led classroom, where disengaged students are seen copying teachers' notes from a blackboard or textbook and speaking only when they are answering questions prompted by the teacher. Fast forward to 2020, where blackboards are a thing of the past and students are increasingly incorporating digital technologies into many aspects of their learning. This is the reality of modern classrooms. And as times have changed, it has become evident that a traditional approach to learning is no longer sufficient to equip today's children with the skills they need to succeed in the 21st century. Research shows that most young children are growing up in media-rich homes where they actively engage in a wide range of digital practices and develop an array of digital skills, knowledge and understanding from birth. As such, children's technological knowledge and experiences need to be integrated and utilised in the classroom to make learning both relevant and engaging. A new literacy pedagogy takes on a multimodal approach to learning, fostered by new communications technology. Literacy is no longer just about writing and reading. A new literacy approach takes written literacy and entwines it with oral, visual, tactile, spatial, and audio ways of meaning. In addition, new literacies have a strong contextual emphasis, promoting personalised learning and valuing students' prior knowledge and experiences in the classroom. A new literacy approach arose from the need for children to be digitally literate in this increasingly technological era. What is a podcast? Podcasts are a series of audio files with a common theme released in intervals to be accessed and downloaded via the internet. The word podcast is the combination of the terms iPod, which is a portable listening device manufactured by the tech company Apple, and the term broadcast. Although podcasts are associated with Apple devices, they can be accessed on any portable or digital device with an internet connection. What do you need to create a podcast? Podcast creation requires very little equipment, making it an accessible technology to utilise in the classroom. At minimum, you will need a computer or tablet, a microphone or headset with a microphone, software. There are many free podcast platforms such as Audacity, which you can use to create your podcasts. And finally, you will need internet connection. This is required to both upload and access podcasts. Classroom applications. There are two main ways that podcasts can be used in the classroom. Firstly, you can use pre-recorded podcasts. So your students will listen to and report on information presented in podcasts. These pre-recorded podcasts come in many forms and may include stories, informational reports, or open-ended questions. Secondly, you can get your students to record their own podcasts. So students will create their own podcasts, which may take the form of interviews, audio newsletters, work samples, assessments, and recounts. Steps for creating a podcast. Step 1, planning. The planning stage has two components. Firstly, it requires placing students into groups and designating roles. Each student must be familiar with the requirements of their role before they begin working. Secondly, the content for the podcast must be planned. This involves identifying a topic, purpose, and target audience for the podcast. Step 2 is scripting. It is important that students learn to value the process that goes into producing an audio text, such as a podcast. As such, it is important that students follow the normal writing process when constructing the scripts for their podcast. This will involve planning, researching, drafting, editing, and rewriting to finalise their scripts. Step 3 is to perform. Once students have completed the written scripts, they may start to use the equipment to record their podcasts. It is important that the equipment is set up in a quiet location, free from noise and distractions, so students are given the best opportunity to create a quality product. Set up and test the equipment before students begin to record. Step number 4 is to produce. Students play back their recordings and decide to re-record or edit the audio. Once happy with their recording, students may use the computer software to add sound effects and music to their podcasts. Students will then save their recordings as an MP3 file. Step number 5, publish. Upload the MP3 file to a server to be accessed by the world or to a school blog or website. Number 6 is to promote. Tell the target audience, which may be parents, teachers, friends, where to find the podcast. Encourage them to subscribe to receive notifications about new uploads. There are countless benefits associated with using podcasts in the classroom. Podcasts give students a real-world purpose for writing. Students write and produce the podcast for an audience in mind, giving them a purpose for text production. Student-centered learning. Traditional initiate, response, evaluate classroom discourse sees teachers dominate classroom talk. Podcast creation gives students the opportunity to express themselves in a creative and personalised way. Podcast creation also allows students to acquire and practice their technological skills. In addition, podcast creation promotes a hand-on approach to learning abstract concepts. Finally, the engaging nature of the task involving technology results in greater student motivation and participation. The mere mention of the subject math can prompt an eruption of moans throughout the classroom. But what if I told you that you can make your math lessons more engaging and self-paced through the use of podcasts? As podcasts can be paused and replayed, they offer a great platform for presenting worded math problems to students. Students, each with their own listening device, can listen to pre-recorded podcasts offering a range of leveled mathematics problems to solve. This allows students to practice their listening skills and identification of various parts and operation of a worded question at their own pace. Students may also record their own series of podcasts with math problems for their classmates to access and solve. This is a great way for students to practice writing worded problems and reading numbers and equations. They also feel engaged in creating useful content for their peers and hearing what others have created. Podcasts are also a great way for students to explain their mathematical working. It is important that students understand how they reached an answer. Verbalization can be a great way for students to express and identify their thought processes and offer teachers an insight into the strategies being used to solve math problems. Finally, students may also record podcasts detailing what they have learned about a particular mathematical concept, including any misconceptions they had at the beginning of the unit, what they know now, and how they could use this mathematics in everyday life. Many children are reluctant writers, speakers, and readers, so how do we engage these students in the English classroom? Podcasts offer a unique avenue for students to practice their literacy skills and utilise them in a real-world context. Podcasts have countless applications in the English classroom, and although students may be eager to grab the recording equipment right away, it is important that they learn to value the writing process behind every great podcast. Students must still engage in the regular writing process, which involves planning, researching, drafting, editing, writing, and publishing. These skills are transferable and will enable students to be successful writers in the classroom and beyond. Students will become familiar with the scripting process, which requires them to identify a target audience and purpose to tailor their content to. There are many creative ways to use podcasts in the English classroom. Investigating and analysing oral text. Students listen to exemplary audio text to identify the use of voice, tone and pace and the effects that these have on an audience. Informational podcasts can provide the content required for students to write a report. Students need to listen carefully to identify and take note of key information. This enables them to produce their own informational texts without the need for tedious internet research. Class news. Rather than having students stand in front of the class and share news, students could record a podcast about an event that's taken place in their life and make it available to the digital class library. Each morning, the class could collectively listen to a classmate's podcast and then proceed to ask them questions. This also develops the listening skills of the audience. A diary entry. Students would record a diary entry from a day in the life of either themselves, a book character, or historical figure. Message in a bottle. Students record a podcast detailing the events of a current year as if it is going in a time capsule to be opened in the future. A radio station. Pairs of students work to construct a segment for a class radio show. This would also involve analysing some regular radio segments to determine what might be included. Some segments could include weather reports, news updates, event reminders, celebrity gossip, and interviews. Interviews. Students could interview teachers, fellow students, family, or community members. Advertisements. Students learn about persuasive conventions before creating a jingle to promote a product that they have designed. This also includes elements of design and technology and HASS in their learning. Field reporters. Students use portable recorders to report on school events as they are taking place. These events could include sports carnivals and assemblies. Podcasts are a great way to encourage the participation of students from diverse backgrounds, including those with learning disabilities and whose first language is not English. Students with speaking difficulties or those from non-English speaking backgrounds are given the chance to practice their speaking and pronunciation in a non-threatening environment when creating and listening to podcasts. Students with dyslexia and other learning difficulties can also benefit from the use of podcasts as they can pause and replay the recordings to take in the information at their own pace. In addition, podcasts offer a distraction-free way for students with concentration difficulties to focus on what they are listening to without background noise. Headsets and individual devices will also assist this. Podcasts offer a platform of expression for children who struggle with writing and English skills. This ensures that these children can still express themselves without getting caught up in the formalities of spelling and grammar. Podcasts also offer an alternate way of accessing information for students with reading difficulties. Often, researching on the internet and scanning through large text can bog them down. So by providing podcasts that have condensed sets of information, these students will still be able to report their findings. In summary, teachers need to be willing to adapt their pedagogy to the needs of this generation of children and those to come. Chalkboards and overhead projectors are no longer enough to promote learning and engagement in the classroom. Digital technologies such as podcasts enable students to develop not only their digital competence, but to learn in new and innovative ways across all areas of the curriculum, including literacy and numeracy. The benefits of using podcasts in the classroom are pronounced, offering an engaging, hands-on approach which promotes a student-led classroom rich in opportunities for self-expression and personalised learning. In addition, podcasts allow students to work at their own pace and offer diverse students a non-threatening way to practice their speaking and listening skills. The world is rapidly changing, with new technologies appearing frequently. As such, we need to be providing students with an innovative digital pedagogy to equip them with the skills they need to be active participants in our digital world.